All right, fantastic. Good morning, Jay. How are you today?
I'm good, Sam. How about you?
I am doing well. So I've got your resume here in front of me, and you have a very impressive background working in the legal industry. So why don't you tell me a little bit about what a typical day looked like in your last role?
A typical day started out with, first off, like most people in office work, emails. You have to check what you missed from the previous day. I would have a board behind me of all the current clients who needed calls that day, if they needed e-filing that day, which is just pretty much meaning that we're drafting a complaint for the client, stating that they want to possibly take, depending on what the insurance company does, take the case to litigation, which means obviously lawsuits and whatnot. So after pretty much going through all of that, and depending on how much clientele it is, because I always had two lawyers. I had Carla Lockwood, and then I had Weston. I cannot remember his first name for right now. I always called him Weston. I never called him by Weston Ehrman. That's right. Weston
Okay.
Ehrman's his last name. Yeah. So they both had about 100 clients on their docket,
Okay.
and that, I mean, that doesn't mean that all of them were in litigation. Some were just new clients, like Weston. When I was there my last few weeks, he got a new client every single day. So
Okay.
he was probably up to about 150, and Carla was about 120. Carla was moving more of her cases over to litigation. Essentially, the process is a client would call and they would want us to take their case on. They have property damage. That's what we specialize in. So usually it's a broken roof. There's a hole. There's a storm that passed by. People had trees fall on their roofs as well. They didn't know about it 2 months later. So my part was a lot of research. I would have to look up the exact dates of maybe when that storm was around, because some people are not always aware of when exactly the date happened, and that's very important for insurance reasons because they're going to look into that just as much. So I always did that little extra. It wasn't required to do that because usually intake department would take their information when initially came in, but I found that sometimes the paperwork didn't correlate with each other. Like the insurance company's date of loss would be different from what's on the client's contractor documents. So I would take extra time to go look at the weather report, see what the day was, the time possibly, just to help them out.
Okay. Okay.
And so, yeah, so then I would call the client. We'd set up a date for them to talk to the lawyer. I would ask them some initial basic questions. Do you own the property? If not, who do you share it with? Um, what would be the date of loss? Do you have insurance right now? Have you had any other insurance carrier the past 10 years? So those are some basic questions, and the lawyer would have their own set of questions they would have because they're the ones mainly handling the case. What I would use, my role specifically was to talk to the client, talk to the insurance company, talk to the contractor, and correlate times of meeting up if there has to be an inspection or reinspection, which happened quite a bit because insurance companies do not want to pay that money. So
Yep.
yeah, because I mean that's why they're there. So I had a lot of fun with that actually, and it was my first time doing any kind of office job like that. I came from a blue collar experience, so I didn't have that much direct interaction with someone about their personal life. So yeah, my
Okay.
yeah, that'll be my typical day, and obviously just a lot of paperwork. So I have spreadsheets of both the lawyers and their clients, and I'd have a status about where they're at, if they were just e-filing. Are we doing? Did they sign their power of attorney? Did they sign their consent to joint payee? So just those initial important documents, making sure we have that process started, or else the lawyer wouldn't want to continue with them at the time. There's like, get the paperwork and then we'll talk to the client. So
Okay.
yeah, both
Are
lawyers have their different process of doing things. Yeah.
fantastic. And what computer software do you feel like you're most proficient with at this stage in your career?
I can use both Google Office and Microsoft Office. At Cohen Law Group, we used Google Sheets and we use Google Docs. But
Okay.
I'm also proficient in Trello. I've used Canvas as well, just different programs for different jobs. But specifically at Cohen, it was Google Office. So Gmail, using Google Calendar to set up clientele, phone conversations with the lawyers. So yeah.
Okay. What would you say was one of the biggest struggles that you experienced during that role, and how'd you overcome it?
Oh, mine was definitely the minute details of when we're drafting up those documents and the specific wording that the lawyers wanted, or if I didn't edit a certain paragraph the right way, because what was emphasized to me was that once the legal documentation leaves me and then they take it, someone reads it in court. And the way that the flow of the paperwork, the very specific legal terminology you have to have in there can be the difference maker of a case. So I definitely messed up a few documents, and I was given grace and time to do them over. So what I did was just essentially I went back in time and I looked at other documents and I looked at the different ways that they were done just to try to get a general basis of it. I stopped trying to do both lawyers' clients at the same time. So for example, if Carla had most of her clients in litigation, I would make sure that was taken care of. I would say, all right, I'm going to do 10 of those. And then if Weston has new clients come in, he has 5, like I'm going to do this on a separate day, or at least like an hour or 2 from now. And it just changed because they have so many clients. I was trying to juggle so much. Then I figured out I need to slow down because these cases are going to be up here for at least 3 months. I'm rushing to get done to the process too quickly. I need to understand the process. I need to really immerse myself in the job and stop trying to just go from here to there. It was too much. And it wasn't that I couldn't handle it. I was just trying to do such a good job. I was just missing the minute things that I got told in my training. And so I eventually translated the training into the actual work, found what worked for me, made up my own schedule of who to take care of, when to take care of, had my phone call list sorted out from when to call this person, stick to it. And one thing I remember from my training was that do not stop. If you're helping a client, if I'm doing paperwork for a client, do not stop that client. Even if you get a phone call about a different one, make sure you go back. Don't take care of the next client, because then the next client will call and the next thing will happen. So eventually I would snowball away from what I was initially doing, because it can take your attention away from the first person, because you feel like I had to take care of all these people's lives, essentially, is what my job is. If their documentation is not correct, that's going to be my fault. It's going to make the lawyer look bad. So that's what I stopped doing. I just focused on one client at a time, and I didn't let it become an avalanche anymore. I was making too much of a mountain, essentially.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. Now, tell me a little bit about how you keep yourself organized during the day and what's your favorite piece of technology to do so.
My favorite piece of technology has nothing to do with the 21st. It's actually been used for centuries now, is the whiteboard behind me. That was a difference maker to me, because I could miss certain things. Like, you can miss an email. I could possibly miss a documentation I was supposed to do, but if I write it on the board, it just works for me because it's right there. It's in big, bold letters, and I have different colors for if this person needs to have paperwork mailed out to them. If someone needs an email, someone needs a phone call, I'll have Weston and Carla split up from each other as well, and I would just do things in an order for me, because I like structure. And like I said, I never had an office job like that before, where it was every single day. My previous jobs, it was probably 20% out of the computer. The rest of it was physically on the field and whatnot. But anyway, with this job, I really had to learn office culture. So that was an interesting paradigm shift for me. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. What's the most important thing to you about the next company that you work for?
Next important thing. I would say the important thing is that I need to be told exactly what you want, even if you feel it's too much. I want to know what your expectations are, so I know how to gauge myself about meeting or exceeding them. I just want complete honesty about expectation, punctuality, and what exactly your vision is, so I can meet that and match it. And if there's anything particular about documentation or certain ways, certain things need to get done, I'm not a person to get annoyed or be like, that's too much. You really need that? You're here to pay me, first of all, and you're giving your time and money, training me. So it's important that I understand fully about what you want. Will I meet that all the time? No, but I really want to know your wants and needs, even if, yeah. So that's really important to me. Yeah.
All right, fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and stop this recording and then chat with you a little bit more.
Okay.